Welcome back to Tea Time with Tech Marketing Leaders. I'm Kerry Guard, your hostess with the mostest and CEO of MKG Marketing, coming to you from the Isle of Guernsey. With me today is Mike Moreno, a proven leader building the future of GTM with AI. He has a decade of experience scaling SaaS and cloud businesses at powerhouses like Intel, Cloudera, Cloudflare, and Exabeam. With a background in software engineering and deep expertise in cloud, machine learning, and high-performance computing, Mike has a rare ability to translate technical innovation into market traction. Most recently at SADA, he launched AI-driven solutions that generated millions of new revenue. Now he's diving into how generative AI is transforming sales and marketing. So much to unpack, and I'm here for it. Mike, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Kerry. Glad to be here. Excited.
So glad to have you. A long time no see. It's been a minute, but little Cloudera action, and our paths are crossing once again. Very exciting.
Yes. It has been a while, but it's been a fun ride.
Well, tell me about that ride. You're at did I say that? Is it SADA or is it SADA? How's it pronounced?
SADA. Yeah, I finished up at SADA back in January. Currently in the process of growing, prospecting. I have a couple of clients for my own agency focused on kind of product marketing and trying to help small businesses, kind of what we're going to talk about, weather the storm or the challenges of AI as it comes to messaging in their products.
Look at you go. Welcome to the Fractional Show. That's
exactly
exciting. So you started your own thing. You have a couple clients?
Yeah. Yes, I have a couple prospective clients that we're talking to.
Cool.
So I'm very excited about that. Maybe a product launch I'll be working on here with them, as well as assessing how we can build kind of a better go-to-market digital framework for another client in the healthcare space. So lots of stuff going on. I know I'm one of many in the world of kind of fractional marketing, PMM, digital marketing, you name it, because it's just an exciting time, even though I know it's a challenging time for many marketers, because I can reflect back on last year and just seeing how I went from the year before using ChatGPT to the world we are in now, and just kind of like assessing that things have definitely changed, and things and many marketers need to understand that.
Yeah, let's riff on this for a second because it's fun. There seems to be two camps in the land of fractional. People who feel like it's a moment in time and a blip given the current market, and others who feel like this is the longevity and the way of the world is going in terms of marketing departments. What's sort of as you're dabbling here and getting into the mix of it, what camp are you currently falling on? And I'm not saying you have to stay there forever, but as you go down this journey, where are you feeling like this new fractional world is coming up? Is it here to stay, or is it just given this just what people are using right now to get through an interesting time?
I'm viewing it as getting through an interesting time. And in preparation for our conversation today, I was reflecting on this, is that I think businesses and decision makers are trying to manage their budgets, obviously, and their knee-jerk reaction is looking at AI as, this is a simple way for me to get more out of less people, which is probably a true statement. Yet I do think there may be a disconnect in assuming that you could hire a junior marketer who's using AI tools to give them the same results they would have gotten from a seasoned marketer who understands the product, understands the market, understands product positioning, understands storytelling. There's a tremendous amount of knowledge that's been accumulated from go-to-market experts over the years. And when you just make the assumption that ChatGPT is going to give you all the answers to somebody you're paying half or a quarter as much as you would be who's more seasoned, I think you're going to find it a little more challenging than you expect, because there's just like I've always branded myself as kind of more of a coming to marketing from the technical angle. I studied computer science. I worked at Intel for 10 years. I understand hardware and software dynamics pretty well, and how these technologies are influencing business solutions. And then there's the marketers, the product marketers who come from the writing angle, great at building those stories. And I think both are very valid, but I think, business decision makers who are hiring, bringing on marketers might be kidding themselves if they think they can just grab somebody who's junior. ChatGPT is just going to educate them, and somehow they're going to do some magical work. And I think people should be cautious. So that makes me think it's a temporary thing, and that maybe, as things change, they're like, oh, I need these full-time employees to be working for me, not just fractionally.
I think it'll depend on the stage of the company. So I think the startup scale-up folks will probably, well, I could go either way, but I think the idea of hiring, one person to do many people's jobs is a struggle. And so I think the fractional side sort of helps solve a bit of that, where you bring on sort of a fractional team versus a single person. And you still need founders make this mistake all the time, where they skip having a marketing person there, whether it's in-house or even as a fractional, and jump right to working with an agency. And then they don't understand why nothing's working. Right. Yeah. And so yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how it all pans out. But I do think fractional is here to stay, but I do think it's going to find itself into a certain niche of where it makes sense and how it helps companies get on the map and start to grow. And then they will need to bring in an in-house team because there's just too much work for a fractional team. But I think it's going to help those smaller companies who need marketing get marketing faster than just waiting around for, the revenue to be rolling in and the product to be finished, so to speak. They can get ahead a little bit quicker by bringing in fractional. When I say fractional, I'm talking about those seasoned people like yourself. I think it's going to give them access to people like you who have the experience, opposed to having to go with somebody with lesser experience because they're cheaper and potentially faster, but don't really know what they're doing and relying on ChatGPT to get it done. So it's going to be an interesting few years.
There may be an inflection point in the sense that you can bring somebody fractionally like me who has tons of experience. They're using the AI tools, and you're really going to get a lot of productivity out of those individuals in a shorter period of time, where I think in years past, the knee jerk was, I need this agency. And I think the culture I've seen over the last few years is, in the organizations I've been at, is this desire to get these uber professional designed agency that your friend told you about, and you're the CMO and you're picking them. And a lot of it's kind of this brand based or perception based. I think there's going to be more of a level playing field, where maybe a newer agency who has a niche focus will be able to maybe accelerate those startups faster than them just having to wait, save their money. Oh, I got to buy this one agency. I got to work with them. And I think that things are going to kind of balance out a bit in that sense, because I'll be honest, I've seen some of these larger agencies and they're great and they'll do great work, but then at the same time, I feel it's very surface. It's not, they don't understand the product, the positioning, the narratives that need to be said to get the eyeballs and the attention that company needs at that time.
Yeah, it's I've been sort of designing websites for the last few years now, thanks to, I used to fight with WordPress and CSS and all that, and then I quit, like rage quit. I was like, no, not doing this anymore. And now there's a new tech stack out there that I use called Tailwind with Next.js, and it's like game changing in terms of never having to touch CSS ever again. And so I got back into it. And the thing that I've learned over the last 2 years in doing websites is that it's not actually about the website. it's to your point about where do you sit in the market and where's that empty space married to that thing that makes you different and unique, that nobody else is really leaning into, with the tone and voice of the brand, and what are those, and then you put SEO on top of that and sort of bring all that together before you even touch the website. And that takes, like, just sitting with the client to even unpack all that takes weeks before you even really start to work.
Yeah.
It's been absolutely fascinating in doing that kind of deep level work that you're talking about. And I do think this shift is coming where people are understanding that that has to happen. And it's all well and good to have a pretty website, but it's just a vehicle for really the most important stuff, which is what you're saying and why you're saying it and how you're saying it. So yes, agree.
And that's where I approach things in everything I do, is with that first messaging document. Messaging and positioning. Who is the customer? Those are the first questions I'll ask a product manager, a salesperson. I'll even talk to, when I get the occasion to talk to potential personas. And for example, when I started at Exabeam, I went and talked to the old CISO from Cloudera and I said, hey, I'm joining this security operations company. Tell me what you're going through. What are the things when it comes to a SIM cybersecurity solution that you're interested in? And really getting to the base level, what is it that they care about? What could move the needle fastest for that company in engaging with you, said persona, and building the messaging from there. Because I think, to your point, like, we can make pretty things and we can put words on the page, and ChatGPT can certainly help you put the words on the page. But is it going to resonate at a human level? Because it's a human who's considering buying your product. And especially when you're talking about inbound leads. I don't know about you, but I mean, my process for doing vendor research right now is usually starts with ChatGPT. Give me the top 10 XYZ widgets, boom. And then after that, maybe I'll say in North America or in the United States. But then from there, I might be going into their websites and I might be saying, okay, validating the thesis that's been given to me. And that's where the action happens, right? The vendor, and we've all heard this as marketers, and this is an old data point. It was 70% of sales, before a salesperson talks to somebody, 70% of the research has already been done. And I think that's even higher now. I always like to say now it's over 70%, because these tools just make it so easy. And I can reflect back, even talking about Cloudera, since you planted it in my mind. I helped Cloudera invest in LinkedIn Elevate for their social media, which is an employee advocacy tool, which allows them all the employees to retweet, repost in LinkedIn. And I did the vendor analysis. I looked at them, and I looked at some of the other leading employee advocacy tools, and had 3 columns and features, benefits, price, and I can just go to ChatGPT and do that in seconds. So if you're not showing up there, and this is kind of my thesis for what I'm trying to drive as a consultant right now, is if you're not showing up when I say, give me the top 10 vendors, you need to be there. This is, in my mind, and you can debate me on this, in my mind, this is SEO 15 years ago. This is an opportunity. I guarantee that ChatGPT, a year from now or less, 2 years from now, they're going to go to a paid model similar to what we've seen with Google and Google Analytics, because us marketers don't want to see the analytics. We're going to want to be able to say, oh, we got attribution because somebody found an article that positions your company or product on ChatGPT, and we could say, hey, look, we did it. And so I think things will go in that direction, but right now is such a hot opportunity to really use tools like frameworks like Generative Engine Optimization, where you put the right content pieces out there in press and blogs, aligning your messaging on your website such that these things get picked up, and bringing that alignment back to what we just talked about, the messaging doc. This needs to be the core of how you're going to talk about it, how do you think your core audience is going to write a prompt saying, give me the top 10 companies that do XYZ? If you're not saying we do XYZ on your product page or your solution page or even your main homepage banner, you might be missing it. And I've actually seen results where in those top 10 lists from ChatGPT for a subset of vendors, there might be Wikipedia, Wall Street Journal article, and I've actually seen ones where the that vendor's website was referenced and they were ranked in there. So that messaging alignment is so important right now to get you in there.
Oh my gosh, I don't know where to start. I mean, yes, and we have to show up in geo, right? And I think it's still a black box of how on earth we do that. What we are seeing is that the standard SEO best practices still work.
Yes.
So to not change what you're doing from an SEO perspective, but to your point, really aligning your SEO strategy to not only how people search, but then that messaging piece of hitting at home, right? Those need to be in lockstep. And the way that I'm seeing AI sort of level the playing field, so to speak, is I'm a great example of this. And I'm sure you're feeling this too, of like being able to build the positioning, the messaging, the keyword research, dumping a ton of information into chat, all in one window and now folders to really build that up into a place where you can just now, like when we roll out ad copy, it's like, okay, using the tone of voice and these messaging pillars, we're going after this keyword, let's write 10 title tags and then and then we need just 4 descriptions and make sure they're in this order, right? And then you're knocking out copy in less than 20 minutes. And the only reason why it takes that long is because we're still being thoughtful and methodical and poking the bear to make sure that it's dialed in, right? So I do think that taking the time to do the research and doing it in chat is like where this is all headed. But let's talk about that for a second, because the way that we do the research and what, I said this in a presentation I gave a few weeks ago, is that chat is only as good, the output from chat is only as good as the input you give it. And so if you're just scraping the internet and having it regurgitate back to you what it already knows, then you're just going to show up, to your point, like you might not even show up because it's going to rank you against what other people are already doing in your low man and totem pole in that regard. So when you're talking about the research piece and that messaging and positioning, how are you using AI to support that? And how are you making sure that it isn't just an internet regurgitation of what's already out there?
So over the last few months, this is what I've been researching specifically on geo, and my conversations I've had with other marketers have kind of brought me to my thesis, which geo is a recipe currently. Attribution is the weak spot, but the recipe is authoritative content on authoritative websites. Going to help you get ranked. Wikipedia could be one of them. Reddit can be another one of them. And then that alignment of message to what is on your website is also very important, like I just mentioned. Now, to your earlier point, and I talked to an SEO expert last week. He's like, if you're rocking it on SEO right now, you're most likely, and you've been rocking it in SEO, you're probably going to come up in those top 10 lists, most likely. My biggest concern, kind of what I'm focused on, having been in the startup game for a while, or sub-C, Series C companies, or Series C-ish, is that if you're let's say you're Series A, you're smaller, you're relatively new, getting that brand impact, even with SEO, is going to be a challenge. You don't have the content out there. You may haven't built the authority or brand authority or product solution authority yet. And so how do I help somebody like that in that situation accelerate to be ranked and rated by chat, right? That is kind of what I'm looking at. Trying to answer your question as best as possible.
Yeah.
Did I miss anything there?
No, that is like, that's a great start, because I do think that for startups in particular, small businesses even, getting authority up and getting those keywords ranking and your landing pages it does feel so much harder these days. Like it feels like it takes more time and more effort to like start making progress and really having it all working together, right? It's not just keywords. It's not just semantics on your website. It's not just internal link building. It's an external link building. You can't do any one of these things. You have to do all of them.
Yeah. And I will answer this a bit further because the conversation I had with somebody last week, I think it's a bit of a balance on SEO and geo, is my view, is that you need to check the SEO box well. But then if you want to get listed, you need to start on the geo recipe that I just talked about. And there is a bit of training in there. You need to train chat. You need to train the platforms you want to be viewed, because I was about to interview for an identity access management company a couple months ago. And I was doing my research and I said, give me the top 10 identity access management companies. Boom. It wasn't on the list. And I go, why isn't this company on the list? Oh, and the way chat responded was hilarious. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, they should be up there. And I'm just like, okay. And so I validated this thesis as well with other marketers. So I talked to a marketer probably about 2.5 months ago, and he was managing a bunch of e-commerce sites in India. And he noticed the SEO, he's an SEO guy. And he noticed SEO was not working like it used to through probably about a year ago, but when I talked to him about 9 months. And so he started researching what was going on. And he realized that obviously LLMs are taking this kind of no-click situation. And so he built kind of this geo strategy to kind of combat that. But the one thing that I walked away with, and I've also validated this, is that he goes, LLMs recognize other LLM copy. So if you're thinking that you're going to just go use chat and just write a whole bunch of stuff and put it out there, that might not get you ranked and rated as well as you'd like. He said that they are looking for an original thought, a differentiation, something, and that's why reviews that could be in Reddit as well, but reviews like on G2 play so well right now to getting you ranked and rated on these platforms, because it's an original thought. It's some human being saying they are the best thing since sliced bread. And that has a tremendous amount of weight versus chat wrote it. We're ranked number 1 out of 10. And chat knows that it was written by itself or by another LLM, and you're just not going to get the same play.
Let's talk about this differentiation between a geo strategy and a SEO strategy. I don't know that I think they're converging, where SEO is sort of catching up to geo. And there was a huge update that just happened in March, actually, that disrupted a whole bunch of folks for this reason, where I to your point, the validation aspect of what you're saying is so important. And actually, when we do on-page recommendations, and we run it through SEMrush to give us on-page, to tell us like what's wrong with the page, that is actually one of the things it's looking for, is client testimonials or case studies, or that individual piece that validates what it's saying. If chat gives me content that ever says number 1 or trusted by, I'm like, no, you got to remove it. There's no way for me to sit here and say we're number 1 or we're the most trusted. Like that's unquantifiable. And unless I can have enough testimonials to literally say those words, there's no point. So stop saying this. And so I do think that everyone's moving in this direction, both search engines as well as LLMs, around that authenticity of validation, of making sure that those case studies and those testimonials are relevant and popping. So let's talk about this for a second. You said there's this recipe for geo. You talked about relevant content. We're talking about the testimonial piece. where else does it differentiate in your mind? I mean, like I said, I do think that they're converging, but let's just assume that they're still two separate things for this conversation. Where else do you see where you have to lean into what's different in leaning into geo versus SEO? What else you got?
I think now I'm not the SEO expert. I can safely say I'm a well-rounded marketer, but not deep dive into SEO probably as you. But my view would be you're going from a keyword, trying to own certain keywords, and then trying to build content that integrates those keywords to a world where with generative engine optimization, it's not necessarily as keyword focused. It's a bit more authority focused. Like if I'm chat and I'm going to put you in the top 10, I need to be able to validate that the reviews saying that you're great on G2 correlate with the Wall Street Journal article you put up there, and the messaging correlates with what is on your website. And so I view it from a product marketing angle of, and I talk a lot about this as well, is that a lot of the messaging we've built for websites and even marketing materials at times can be very forward looking and less focused about what you do. And so case in point, 2 years ago at Exabeam, I needed to update a PDF that had all our partner integrations. And so I'm going through this list of 200 different partnerships and how they're categorized. And then I'm trying to, even though I know, because I've been in tech my whole career, what most all these companies do, I still wanted to validate it. And so like the best example I could give is CrowdStrike. So CrowdStrike, the world knows them as an endpoint protection company, but you go to their website, we're the AI cybersecurity company. So there was no quick way 2+ years ago to like go into ChatGPT and say, validate this for me. And so I recognize that. But I also use ChatGPT to help that process. But fast forward to today, and the kind of thesis I built back then was there was like a 2-year lag on training data. So I kind of came to the conclusion as a marketer, as a product marketer, I'm like, there might be some value to communicating what you do as a brand or as a specific product more authentically. So I think we're moving to a world where we're relying on tools like ChatGPT, and I think it behooves us to try and talk more authentically about what we do, such that when somebody types in a prompt and says, I'm looking for the best endpoint protection company, give me the top 10, the wording on your website matches authoritative content, and you're guaranteed that you're going to show up. And that's particularly impactful for the startup who's trying to build that brand, where it could be so easy to say, oh, I got a 12-month roadmap and we're going to the moon. And I put, oh, we're going to the moon. Well, they're not searching in ChatGPT, I'm looking for the startup that's going to the moon. They're searching for what you can do, right?
And I actually had a really great conversation with Teresa Roy about this a few weeks ago, where she was saying something similar from a product marketing standpoint, not in the sense of AI and how we're talking about it, but in the sense of the more product solution, right? So we've been told for so long to not talk about our products and not talk about our features, and people don't care. And to your point, I think you're driving that home of actually they may not care, but the LLMs do. So being very clear and specific on the very specific feature thing you have and do, and the problem it solves is coming back in a big way. And the more specific we can be, the better chance we have at making sure we do show up from an authoritative perspective for that thing. So laddering up your homepage, sure, to be more emotional and to hit home, but people aren't ending up on your homepage anymore, right? They're kind of coming in the back door and going deeper. I think is where, to your point, like kind of where this is all headed. And the other thing that you're saying that I absolutely love, that makes this tricky once again, is the consistency that has to go beyond your website. right? And Google's always kind of said this, especially from a localization standpoint, where you have, I did local SEO a little bit today and a long time ago, where your phone number, like even just the way your phone number showed up in Google My Business, had to be exactly formatted as it showed up on the website. Like that continuity had to be crystal clear. And so that kind of on a bigger stage to what you're talking about, of like your continuity around your messaging and the problems you solve based off of the features you have has to be everywhere.
Yeah.
And that always felt kind of daunting. Because everywhere now is like, it's not just Google Ads, a website, and a search engine. It's Google Ads, it's YouTube, it's a search engine, it's your website, it's social media, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter. I'm still calling it Twitter. Threads, right? It's got to be like TikTok, right? That continuity now has to be spread out across so many more channels and teams. If you're looking more from an enterprise, I know we've been talking very startup, which I love, but just sort of dipping our toe in the enterprise world, like that poor enterprise team now going across multiple teams and that continuity needing to be so crystal clear feels big. So where do you see, what you sort of mentioned it a little bit, like Wall Street Journal, Reddit, are you saying PR has to come out to play in a really big way to make this authoritative aspect work?
Big time. I think what my belief is that PR, brand, and product marketing all need greater alignment. And I say, I'll start from the product marketing angle because that's what I'm most comfortable with, is to what you just mentioned. Start with the messaging doc. That messaging doc needs to be the core, that we're communicating on a given product or set of products or whatever portfolio this way. And this is the boilerplate. To your point, the boilerplate's going to go all over, even in press. And so the brand team and the PR team, what's the boilerplate? Does that boilerplate align to what we're messaging about our product or our company as a whole? And those all need to be better aligned than ever before. I think in a world where people are defaulting to like chat to give me the top 10 vendors, that's the AI talking to AI. That's the AI analyzing the world and giving you a response. But then once you move beyond that, that's where the human part begins. And I almost view kind of content right now in a certain way is that go with ChatGPT or whatever tool, Claude, go build your sales enablement materials and PDFs and even PowerPoints, leverage that all day long. Don't worry that much about the copy. Just make sure that it aligns to that messaging doc. But external content, take your SMEs, take your CEO, your COO, your CPO, get those leaders and get their outlines, build their content, build that human aspect to it. Because I think once they click on your brand, that's where the brand alignment is so important, because then it becomes about customer experience, your tone, your visuals, that all need to also align to the marketplace you're going after. Because I think that's what's going to humanize you. Because I think that even though we're in this world of AI and AI can do so much for us, I think you want that handoff to feel seamless between the 80% of the research they've done online to their first conversation with the salesperson, and that needs to match. And then that is going then to be kind of that virtuous cycle where I recognize the brand, I recognize the brand, I recognize the brand. I want to tell people about this brand, and then you start going.
I actually use the sales team as a first stop research tool. So I bring the sales. I always work with really small companies. So I always bring sales and the founder and whoever else I can, reel into the room multiple times over several weeks to unpack who they are, what they do, why they're better, what marketing they've tried or haven't tried, and really just like ask a plethora of questions and see what rabbit holes I find myself in. And even actually, I just did one meeting recently where the CEO didn't show up because he wanted to give the room to his team to be able to speak from their perspective. And then I did a separate meeting with him. And so while I got similar answers, they had different depth to them. And so I love what you're saying. I think in terms of positioning and messaging, and that first step is not just starting with chat or online research. It has to start with the people inside the company who are doing the thing and who are on the front lines of interacting with the customers day in and day out, and what they're seeing as the pain and the solution, and what's resonating and what's not, and what's the language. And then you can build on top of that. But I agree that that authenticity has to start with the people inside the company, and the more the merrier.
Yeah.
How I also think that it has to come back to the customer, which I've sort of struggled with in terms of getting in front of, given the current clients I'm kind of working with. But I know that from a product marketing standpoint, from a B2B tech standpoint, and the work that you've been doing, that's also something that you rely heavily on. So when you're working with a startup and you're sort of marrying this stuff together, where does the customer voice lend itself for you?
Well, like you, I usually start with the sales team to understand their view of the customer. It's always interesting in those conversations what you hear. I can reflect back on one situation at Cloudflare where I was doing a bit of channel marketing at the time, and we were trying to push out this platform solution. And my lead channel account rep was like, Mike, I'm not pushing that. He goes, that product in that solution lost us a deal with a huge client last year with my primary channel partner. And he's like, we'll focus on this, and then later on we can try to cross-sell. And so those are the type of conversations that resonate, because that gives you that perspective. What is truly going to move the needle, and then validate the strategy, and then come back. And so that's where I usually start. But then, like the example I gave earlier, if I have a contact in my network who's somebody who's the end customer, I'm gonna reach out to them on LinkedIn and say, hey, could I get 15 minutes of your time? I'm starting this new job, or I'm working with this client, and I want to understand kind of some of the things you look at. And then the other thing I feel like I do personally is reflect on myself as a customer. I think we're all human beings. We all get spam messages. We all get great, we could all get great email sequences from inside reps. We all see social media. So I generally like to reflect also on myself as like, what is it that causes me to go investigate a product, to go research a product, to go buy a product? What were those things? And some of the darndest things that I can reflect on over the last year are just crazy. Like I'll get some inside rep emailing me very little copy on their sequence, very little, but enough to draw some interest. It was a topic that me as a marketer aligned to kind of the goals and objectives I'm trying to achieve. And I was curious about their solution. I'm a bit of a nerd, I guess. I kind of do like MarTech stuff. So if it's something like, oh, wow, this is really cool, I want to learn about it. But even I got the darndest email, and it was somehow got to my inbox, not the promotion, was from Microsoft. And again, very little copy, colorful banner at the top, just the right words on the page to draw my interest. So I think it's you need to think of those three things. Is me, what would I do if I was the customer? What would I do if I was the chief security officer, right? Knowing what I know about the products or the market, what channel would I go to research a given product, knowing what I know? The other one is actually talking to the customer, and the other one is really getting that sales vision of what's happening when they're talking to customers, what's working, what's not. And those three things help the most. Yeah.
Yeah, I think when you're talking about that authenticity piece, it's got to start. I also love talking to founders because they like trying to go back to why'd you start this thing? Like, what's it mean to you? And where's that heart of what problem you saw that you wanted to solve? And then to validate whether that's still a thing and still relevant. But again, coming back to that, I had a great conversation with Joel Bench a few weeks ago. We were talking about messaging and the heart of messaging and how it needs to speak from an emotional standpoint as much as the technical and tactical one. And so I always find founders are great for that intel. How are you seeing that? We talked a lot about messaging from sort of that more actionable standpoint, right? Problem, solution, feature, function. Um, when you are talking about brand, though, and bringing that continuity across all of these channels from a brand voice aspect, how does heart play into how emotion play into that? Or are you seeing it go sort of swing the other way where it's like people don't want that anymore, especially with the way geo's going? Like it's got to be just very straightforward, this to that, and it's
Right.
not as an emotional decision as we all thought it was or used to be.
I still think the human, I mean, I come from a sales background prior to getting into marketing. And so I kind of bring that mindset to when I do my marketing. So one of the things I learned over a decade ago was like, go for the jugular. When you're talking to the customer, what's their core pain point? So I've kind of backed out, like there's the jugular moment, and then there's the amazing utopian vision, and kind of carrot stick, carrot stick. And I tend to approach things that way. Is like, what is the narrative that me as let's say I'll just pick on myself as a marketer. What is the narrative as me as a product marketing manager needs to hear that would say, oh man, I got to go look at that solution. Oh man, if I don't do this now, and we can pick on AI. Let's assume I'm a marketer. I've been an older marketer, and I just don't want to change my ways. But you see the story that I'm just picking numbers out of thin air. 50% of product marketers who don't adopt ChatGPT or LLM tools are going to lose their job next year. Holy moly, I'm like on it, So if I see that message, that narrative, I'm going to jump on it. Then the other one is, let's say I'm a CMO. 50% of marketing organizations who adopt a platform that aligns tone of voice and branding through AI have, increased revenue by 20%. Oh, okay. I want to hear that story. So I think those emotions, you're really, you either from the bad angle or the good angle, you're trying to evoke that emotion. And your sales team certainly needs to be doing that. They certainly need to be equipped with not only the customer case stories where hopefully you have some of those narratives built in, but even just the macro level understanding of, I understand CISOs or on a product, whatever the product is, I understand their challenges, and I'm aligning my story of my products, our benefits and features and solutions to those problem statements. And that's always in my product marketing, my messaging documents when I build it. And I think every product marketer needs to kind of view that lens, and brand needs that. That's where that, like I was saying earlier, PMM and brand, they need that alignment, especially as brand becomes more important to stand out in the noise of LLM tools.
One thing that you did in both of those examples that I find very interesting is that you used a data point, 50%, 55%. And you used it in a way that says it strikes emotion. So but that feels so tactical to me. I love this because I've been finding in my own posts from a LinkedIn perspective that the LinkedIn posts that do best are the ones where I lead with data and a data point. I feel like you probably did that somewhat intuitively and kind of by accident because you've been doing this for so long. But is that like, as we think through our messaging strategies and aligning to the those those messaging points in relation to validity. Sounds like data could play a really important part there of doing both the tactical of the thing you do in relation to the emotion that it could bring to that audience. Is that something you lean into, or was today
Always.
just an example at an accident?
Every day, all the time. So it was funny. Cloudflare management actually requested us to keep track of metrics. So at a macro level, like how many different sites, how many different server sites we had globally, number of customers, you name a whole ton of metrics. And that as marketers, we would leverage. But generally, when I think of product and communicating product value, it's all about the results to the customer. And so you could just go down a basic narrative without metrics and have a story, and it might be a great story, but you might have all the right keywords. But at the end of the day, as a customer, I want to know how much time I'm saving, how much potential revenue I might create, how much pipeline I might create. Some of the core things like pain usually cost. Isn't it cost me more? Why are things costing so much? How can I reduce my costs? And I can reflect back when I was at Intel, and some of the driest, probably, I don't know, it wasn't dry, but what kind of might be considered dry content today. We had a CPU launch. I'm training a bunch of IBM customers on these IBM Intel hardware, and bunch of basic CIO types in the room, and I'm talking to them about the benefits of this new processor. And so the new processor with VMware could virtualize 4 to 10x more than they could the year before. Huge thing. They can consolidate these data centers and save a ton of money. And so that was kind of the nut of the conversation, along with greater performance on database. So database consolidation. And then, but what really got them engaged, and I love when you have that audience because you can see the eyes light up, because I worked on high performance computing. So the national laboratories, huge data centers. Now we have quantum computing, kind of analogous, and all these things. But I said, look, you can consolidate, let's say 10x of your data center. And guess what you can do as a CIO? You can go invest in new hardware and software to go do more product development. You can turn from being a cost center to a profit center. And they're like, oh, yes. Because here these are guys or ladies getting hammered, like, why is IT services, why is the networking costing so much? And then I'm telling them of a utopian vision of, hey, you can cut costs, and guess what you could do? You can say, take a little bit of that budget and say, hey, boss, why don't I support the product and engineering team with this great idea that they have that could be a new product for our organization. Woo, they just loved it. So I think using data and and integrating that into the narrative is so important. And it moves you out of features, benefits. It moves you into true business solutions.
I could talk to you all day and dig around this stuff. I think where we are in terms of how people search in relation to starting with the LLMs and understanding the landscape of what's out there, and then going to websites and then looking at elsewhere to validate what they sell in chat. First of all, hats off to you for actually doing the homework of validation. I don't know that everybody does that, and it is definitely, we all need to be doing that when we're doing our homework. Absolutely. Don't just take chat at face value. Go validate it left, right, and center, and not just on their website. To Mike's point, make sure that you are looking at articles, Reddit, all those things to ensure that what chat is saying is actually correct. And then flip it on its head and make sure that you are building your brand to do exactly that, where you can show up in chat and then everything you say that showed up in chat is validated across the World Wide Web. Mike, any last pieces of advice for us as we sort of wrap our heads around this beast of a problem and start tackling it little by little?
Well, I'm going to bring it back to fundamentals. I think we can love and leverage AI tech all we want, but do not forget the fundamentals of understanding your customer, building messaging that's going to resonate with them, whether you use AI or not. But let that human piece come through as well. Don't just hang all your hats on ChatGPT to do it all for you. Try and have a good balance between what's using it as a strong tool to accelerate work, but also making sure that you have the anecdotes and narratives that's going to resonate with your audience.
100%. 100%. It's just a calculator, folks. Still need to know how to do the math.
Exactly.
Where can people find you, Mike? They want to learn more about what you're offering and how else to approach their positioning and messaging. Where you at?
Definitely find me on LinkedIn. And then if you want to learn more about what I'm doing on the consulting side, you can go to revgenai.biz, just like spelled REVGENAI.biz, and learn more, and feel free to reach out.
Love it. Love it. Before we go, Mike, you are more than a product marketer. You've been on quite a journey for your career. What a journey it's been. But outside of marketing and work in general, what is currently bringing you joy?
I'm a dad first and foremost. So my little girls growing up and playing with them is number one. Number two, even though I don't eat right all the time, I do enjoy going to the gym 3 times a week and getting my walks in. So trying to stay healthy and fit as long as I can so I can keep up with my little girls, kind of the goals and objectives of my life right now.
Oh, I feel that. They are on the go. Keeping up with them is definitely a full-time job. That is for sure. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate you, Mike. If you liked this episode, please like, subscribe, and share. This episode was brought to you by MKG Marketing, the digital marketing agency that helps cybersecurity companies and other complex brands get found via SEO and digital ads. This episode is hosted by me, Kerry Guard, CEO and co-founder of MKG Marketing. Music mix and mastering done by the amazing Eliza Drown, my podcast sidekick. And if you'd like to be a guest, I'd love to have you. Let's have a conversation like this. This is what it's all about. I'm here for it. I'd love to have you on. Thank you all so much. Have a great day.